by the way, it's quite funny. We talk about how this industry makes us insecure, and then we're like, boom, we're going to have these gigs.
Big dreams.
Yeah!
That's how crazy
So
we are.
right.
It's crazy.
Oh, we are, like, literally.
Oh, it's crazy, yeah.
Welcome everybody to another episode of Hard Rock Hangouts. So from myself, Matthew Connell, and Dixon, we're bringing you another fresh episode where we've got Rachael Downie, Ade Oladipo. Hey, sport fans in for a treat.
Man, if this is for you boxing, motorsport and football fans, you're going to absolutely love everything we discuss.
Check it out. Ade, Rach, welcome to our little rock bunker, Hard Rock Cafe. I mean, this is unusual kind of setup for an interview, but thank you very much for joining us.
I love it. Thanks for having me. This is a cool setup. This is like, I'm going to steal this setup if you don't mind.
Please do.
Really nice. I don't know if I can rent Hard Rock Cafe bunker.
You really want to stay here, don't you? You love it.
I love it, honestly. As soon as I walked in, I was like, okay, where are we going? Like downstairs, left,
It's
right. I was
amazing.
like, wow.
So cool.
And then you enter this and it's just, this is sick, come on. This
Yeah.
is
I
sick.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
I mean, this is all down to you, Dre. You made it. Dre found, made it happen. I was like, okay, cool, Hard Rock, maybe, let's do it. And it's here. So kudos to your kind of scouting location work. Nevertheless, of course, big up Hard Rock for having us. But Rachael, Ade, we figured we wanted to do this roundtable kind of thing because I consider you guys, faces of the broadcast game.
Ooh.
We got no pressure. We've got different levels of experience, and I think it's really interesting, even through the power of social media.
Yeah.
I feel like I know you guys without actually formally meeting. This is the first time we've all sat in a room. Sadly, we've known each other for a little while now, Dre.
That's part of it, man.
And we're learning. It was like it's our little relationship we've got going on here. But Rachael, kicking off with you, it's kind of funny because we have worked in a motorsport world. We've never crossed paths, which is bizarre.
Yeah.
And I know from seeing your work, like you are all motorsport, of course, part of the Motorsport Network. But how motorsport, was this like always a sport that you loved, or was it kind of you like we've done? We just fell into this place and here we are.
It's a good question, actually. I've always loved Formula One. So I grew up watching the F1 on a Sunday with my dad. And that was always just something I was very passionate about. But it was never a career kind of choice or option. I used to be a dancer. So I was with the Royal Ballet when I was 11. And so that was my life. My life was always a dancer. I left school at 15 to go off to stage school in London. So didn't even have like the education behind me. So I don't know, like the world of motorsport, obviously it's very male heavy, not a journalist, so it just was never anything. I was more kind of from the creative side of things, so it was never an option. How I got into it, so I was then a professional backing dancer when I was dance school, so I used to dance like Top of the Pops, and I'm quite old, so CD UK.
I remember it.
Big up.
Yeah, I remember it.
Hey, that's a favourite.
Yeah, thanks, I appreciate that. So I did all those kind of shows, and then when they came off air, so Top of the Pops finished, I realised all my work would be literally stopped overnight. And so I blagged my way to a presenting audition. There used to be like late night game shows on like ITV2 called The Mint.
Yeah.
All those like
They're
classic.
weirdly addictive to watch, right? Like those late nights we spend watching this
Are
kind
they
of
gone?
things.
Are they stopped?
Yeah, Ofcom stopped them because,
Okay.
they weren't exactly
Ofcom.
bona fide. But yeah, so I managed to blag my way on one of those shows, and that's how I kind of got into presenting live TV, and I think that's, that taught me everything with the live aspect. So you kind of have a balls of steel when you do shows like that. You don't, you can do any live gig. And then, very kind of like long story short, I realised like I love presenting and I wanted longevity in the industry. And as a female, how do you get longevity in an industry like that? And I thought about sport. So I managed to get a job on the PKR channel. And then from there, kind of did a couple of other bits and bobs. Football, I'm a big Spurs fan, so I did a little bit with FA TV, but motorsport was always the thing I loved. So we used to go to like Silverstone, and there was a crew there, and I just said, look, can I just, I'll do something for you for free, I'll follow you around, I'll be a pit lane reporter. So yeah, basically that's how I got into motorsport. And then through luck, my favourite race ever is Le Mans 24 Hours, which is going on this weekend. It's my heart, I love it. I managed to cover a race for Le Mans. I think I did that like 6 years ago for Nismo. And that was in front of like 300,000 people.
That's
it was
mental.
incredible.
That's
It was the best experience. We were there for a week and we had to stay like on the campsite. Trust me, staying on the campsite Le Mans is not what anyone wants to be doing at all. Queuing for a shower with a bunch of Germans with towels wrapped around them. It's an experience.
The motorsport circuit.
It was an experience. But that was right, this is 100% the world I want to be in. And I could go on and on about it, but it's one of those things where because I'm not a journalist, and obviously I'm not a man, and it's very male heavy or journalist heavy. I kind of thought, how can I like make room for myself in motorsport? And I have. I don't know. I think it's just my style of presenting. I've never kind of changed the way I present, and always looking for a job that is just going to change how we report on motorsport. Because motorsport generally is quite, it's not the most exciting coverage out there until a few years ago. It's changing slightly, luckily. But yeah, so that's how I got into motorsport.
And with your role more being of a typical kind of broadcaster role, Ade, you came through more the content game, where it feels like this whole media industry now is like coming together in some kind of Avenger-style climax, where people from all kind of backgrounds are now together. Of course, for you, Ade, again, like Rachael, I feel like I know you without knowing you, because all my friends on social, as you've been doing stuff on TalkSport when you first appeared on Sky Sports, and of course, like Fight Camp with DAZN, everyone's like, Ade, but celebrate, and I think which is really important,
nice.
when we have friends
right?
that do good stuff, we celebrate their achievements, and of course, hell of a journey. I've seen the classic YouTube clips from going way back when you kicked off your YouTube channel. You're persistent. You made a lot of videos to get to where you are now.
Yeah.
Tell us about that work ethic and how we got to where we are at the moment.
It's crazy. So it's almost like Rachael's so there is no journalist degree. So you almost have to kind of find a way to navigate this journalistic world without having a degree. And I don't have that. So I started a boxing channel with my friend, as you say, many, many moons ago. And I was into boxing, but football was my sport. But I was into boxing, but I grew up in a household where almost like Mike Tyson was a relation in the family. Every time Mike Tyson fought, my dad, Mike Tyson's fighting, so we'd watch it. And then in the 90s in this country, it was all Nigel Benn, Chris Eubanks. I've always loved the sport, but it's definitely been my second or third or sometimes even fourth sport. Then I met a guy called Ryan at work, and he was a massive boxing fan. So I owe a lot to him. I always mention him in the videos because he's key to kind of where it all took off from. And we would then just go to his house, chill, a couple of drinks, put it on, and watch boxing. And then we were like, why don't we just put it on YouTube? Like, what are we talking about? Why are we going to do YouTube? So we did. We put it on YouTube, and we started filming. We had no camera. And this is why I think it's important people know the story, because you can just start from scratch. Obviously we've got a fantastic camera set up here, but we started filming from the back of my MacBook camera. So that was it. That's the camera we started using. And I don't know if you look at the old videos, just because I thought the screen was going to go blank and I didn't know if it was going to shut off, I had my mouse on my leg. So I was moving the mouse just so the screen wouldn't go blank.
Commitment to the content.
After about 10 minutes. So I kept on doing that with the mouse all the time. So that's kind of how we started. And then a company that Rachael used to work for, Rise News, reached out about 5 years ago and asked if I could come down and talk a bit of boxing. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, we had only done a few videos then, and they saw me and was like, yeah, do you want to come and talk a bit of boxing? So I came and done a bit of boxing talk with them. And then I remember one of the production managers was like, you could do something in this industry. I was at Islington Council, taking calls on council tax. I was like, this guy's either crazy or I don't see what I've got. And then it just kind of skyrocketed from there. But I think the key for me was to continue doing my YouTube channel. I read a book, a Malcolm Gladwell book, when he talks about sort of doing something for 10,000 hours. Yeah. I remember thinking, I've done that. So every time I kind of have that fear about going on camera, I'm like, well, 1 second, you've done the camera pieces, 2 camera pieces, for well over 10,000 hours. And then, I ended up going to Africa. I worked for a couple of companies over there. And that was my grounding, my real hard slog. It was difficult, the terrain was difficult, everything was just hard, but I kind of felt like, okay, when I done Africa for 2 years, I was ready to come back and had the confidence of applying for Sky, TalkSport, because before that I would never have even, ever, I'm not joking, like ever, Rachael, thought I could go to Sky. Like, what are you talking about? Like, no chance. But then when I done the Africa stuff, I was like, okay, let's go. Let's try and see if we can get into Sky. And then I think once you get to Sky, then obviously it opens up doors for other stuff. But yeah, it's been crazy. You're right, I must have done over 1,500 videos on my YouTube channel.
Wow.
But I love it.
I was scrolling down, like when I wanted to see Ade's like first vid or whatever was accessible, the first thing on that channel. And I was on a laptop at night, like just scrolling. And I was like, wow, I didn't really realize the amount of kind of commitment and hours you put into it.
Sometimes I do a video, I just got up this morning and did a video. And it's not now, it's just I like doing the videos. I like sitting on the green chair, which has almost become its own thing as well.
It has.
Like a little throne for boxing. And I just like doing it. I like just talking. I feel like once I'm in my YouTube channel, I can be me, like 110% Ade, as opposed to when I'm on, obviously, broadcast, I kind of feel like I have to kind of toe the line a little bit. So for me, that's kind of like my little, like say what I want.
Yeah.
No one can tell me what to say, so to speak.
No limits, no script.
The YouTube for me is the most important, and I kind of sort of implore everyone that's maybe not got a journalist degree or whatever to kind of start a YouTube and just
give it a go.
Crack out the videos as much as possible. And you can make mistakes. We were speaking off air. Off air. I'm sorry.
Before,
Thank you for the compliment.
we're not that professional yet. Not yet, almost.
Me and Rachel were speaking outside about mistakes.
Yeah.
And the fear of making a mistake
Yeah.
on these big channels. And I feel like with my YouTube, I can make mistakes, and it's okay. I can stutter. I can do whatever I can press pause. I can do whatever I can do. Whereas obviously when you're doing things like this and other things, there's no mistakes. It's straight. No, there's none.
But there's no mistakes here.
This is uber
Not yet.
professional.
We told them beforehand, no mistakes, one take.
One take, one
What I was
take.
going to ask you guys is because I think all of us have actually got into media, in a non-conventional way, and I think that probably speak for us, where we've actually come into it from a different angle, where both of us were
Biggest accident ever. I feel like it's a running joke. We're just like, we keep going, buddy.
Thank you, Kobe, but not thank you, Kobe. But it's because obviously we were all behind the scenes beforehand. We got to say, we get to pick and say, okay, no, you're doing that wrong. You're doing this wrong. You're doing this wrong. Do you guys feel that because you guys have come through YouTube and through your non-conventional route that you've gone through dance and so forth, has that kind of made carved your style of interviewing? And have you had to change that style, as you just mentioned, for when you're on Sky or when you're in Motorsport?
Yeah, I mean, you do. First of all, you do change your style for who you work for. I mean, you kind of have to. I think when you're like working towards what your goal is, you do have to sometimes play the game, work with the style, because eventually when I get that gig that I really want, and you've kind of secured it, you can then add your own. But at the same time, because my background is more, I was going to say showbiz then. What?
I mean, it is. The broadcast world is show business. It really is.
Top of the pops is showbiz.
You see it all glitzy and
I'm more down with to see the UK because I grew up watching that stuff. So
cool. UK. So cool. I think because of that, because I'm not a sensible kind of presenter, I like to add a little bit more personality to it. I do add that to the shows I work on and also I think people respond better to that, and I don't want to be like everyone else out there anyway. So I think so I say yes to both. You do kind of cater for who you're working with. Yeah,
100%. Yeah, like Sky Sports strict. TalkSport so much relaxed that I feel like I can just be who I want to be on TalkSport. It's so easier, so much more comfortable. But at the same time, I feel like we're lucky that we've not come from the traditional journalist route, because then sometimes you can close your eyes and they all sound the same. Like, you watch the Sky Sports News and you feel like, okay, is that the same person at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10? Because it is quite similar. I definitely suffer from a bit of imposter syndrome where I'm like, oh my God, why am I here? How am I here? But then you kind of realize I'm here because they want me to be here and be myself and be Ade. Which it's kind of taken me a long time to understand, because I think coming through the industry, there was people I was trying to copy, thinking, okay, I need to kind of sound like that or be like this. But now, so I'm very comfortable in it because jobs are coming in. I can just be like, okay, they clearly want me to be me. Whereas I didn't know that initially. I was like, oh, am I speaking correctly? Do I need to use all the spaghetti language, the 10-letter stuff? Then I was like, oh, well, maybe not. Maybe they just want us for who we are. So I think it's important that people realize that you don't have to sort of conform to what you think you need to look like or be like. You, especially with the industry now, you can genuinely be whoever you want to be.
Yeah, I agree.
And there will be a place for you, because there's so many content directors and producers that are looking for random and different people. Not everyone should be the same.
Yeah, it's creating your own work, really.
Yeah.
But the imposter syndrome, I have that. I have such bad imposter syndrome.
Awful.
It's
awful.
And we were saying this earlier, that in a way, the more successful you get, the worse it is.
Yeah.
It's just like, I'm not prepared for this. It's like when you've been working for something and wanting something for so long, it's bittersweet because number one, you want to make sure you do not lose it, and you know the pressure on you. You know you have to perform. And I there's so many gigs I've done, and then I'm like, I can't do this. Like inside, you're battling so much, and then you just have to go and perform and do it, and then you sleep afterwards because you're
frightening. Like, my mum's even got me a Bible verse to read before I go.
Really?
Yeah, honestly, before I go on. Like if I don't read it, I have to read it basically. Because if I don't, I'm like, oh my God, I've not read it. And they're literally saying, Ade, we're going live in 10. I'm like, 1 second.
1 second.
Okay, let's go. I've even been on the edge of turning down really big gigs because I'm thinking I'm not ready for the gig. Yeah. And they're like, Ade, you've not responded to us. I'm like, I don't know if I can do this one.
That's so relatable.
So it's weird.
Because it's like you say, unconventional. Like we started this thing out of the pandemic, and as our backgrounds go, we thought, well, let's just give it a go. Let's flex the muscle. Let's get the reps in, like you're saying. Just test the waters. And imposter syndrome is such a big thing because when we did our first two location shoots, we did a Formula One podcast on the roof of the OT Arena with our good buddy Naomi Schiffer, W Series, big up Naomi. And then we got asked by Honda to get our powerboating licenses. Yeah. And like, it felt really weird because like these guys behind the cameras are our good friends who we work with day to day. And I was like, it's so weird that my friends are filming us with a guy I met at Silverstone at the Formula One with David Alorca. And I was like,
David's a crazy guy.
And he's a workhorse he's a
workhorse. He's similar to me, David. So when we meet each other, it's like, oh my God, I feel like I'm meeting my twin in my mirror. So much energy. I love David.
But it's funny, isn't it? Because like, as we go along on this journey, the more new things happen, like you said, like what's going on, get nervous, you want to maybe turn that stuff down. Yeah. What has been the piece of work, something you had that kind of came on your lap and you're like, okay, we're actually really doing this. Like, I am a presenter. Holy smokes, I'm part of the broadcast game. What was that kind of turning point for you?
A couple. I think probably the first one was a Dillian White interview that I did for Sky Sports. It was strange because obviously, again, I entered Sky Sports in the football thing. Like, so it was like transfer shows. It was all football. And someone, I remember a producer come, you green chair boxing guy. And I was like, yeah, that's my sport. I know boxing. He was like, okay, we're going to get you to do a couple of interviews. And I was like, we'll see. And then he reached out and said, do you want to do a Dillian White interview? And I did it, and I remember it got like over 1 million views, which isn't down to me, I'm the guy, but it felt like it blew up. And everyone was like, oh my God, good questions and pats on the back. So that was the big one. But then Talk Sport, because you go in at Talk Sport and it's very much, you do like a little paper review first to get in the door, and then you get chucked on Talk Sport 2. And then they asked me to cover Simon Jordan and Jim White on Talk Sport. And I was like, oh. And that's a very conservative show, and here I am covering it.
Hey there.
Hi. It's me. And I was like, and you see the comments coming in. Yeah. And it started about who the hell is he? Like what? And then it started to get a bit better as it goes on. Like, okay, no, he's kind of cool. And I remember I spoke to my boss after Lee Clayton. Was like, yeah, smashed it. Welcome in. And I was like, ooh. And you go home and you're just like, oh. And you feel like you're exhausted. And you're thinking that's like a fight, a 3-hour fight. Yeah. But that's when I kind of felt like, okay, we're here. Yeah. Like, we're actually in the building. This could actually really be something properly. Because really, it's a career, but I've always thought it could go sideways. You never know, right? I've seen people lose their jobs that I think are very, very good. But that was when I felt like TalkSport was like, kind of signed off. And ever since then, it's been really good work. So yeah, that was it. TalkSport and that Dillian White interview. And sports fans are so unforgiving no matter what industry. And like you say, in boxing, motorsport, like I was saying to you, Rachel, before, like I worked with a good colleague of yours, James Allen, who was, basically took over Formula One commentating after Murray Walker. I felt such pressure. Like we were driving to Spa, and I would revert to talking about football. He was a massive Liverpool fan, big up Liverpool. Well done. And oh yeah, of course, you as well. Never forget. I would revert to talking about football because I was so nervous to talk about Formula One, even though I really loved the sport. For yourself, Rachel, maybe it isn't necessarily in motorsport, but what was that singular project for you that went, this is life, this is real life?
Probably a couple. The first time I ever covered Le Mans, definitely, because that was huge, and we had our own studio built right in the middle of the track. I had to do like lives from like a helicopter, which was ridiculous. Like the whole experience for me in Le Mans that first time, and just being there, film like at night time, because I love night racing. So that was one of those. I can't believe they're trusting me. There's probably others that would be better at this than I am, but I'm just going to do it and see what happens.
Take it.
Yeah, I'll take the job, it's fine. And then one gig I did, I do quite a bit of work with United Nations Women, and I came up with an idea of doing a 24-hour radio show for Fubar Radio, because I did some work with them, and I was like, you know what, it'd be easier to get access to Fubar Radio than other radio stations. If I do a 24-hour radio show, then you're raising awareness for the campaign I was working for, but you know, and it was one of those experiences. We had a month to plan it and book guests, like 2-3 guests every hour for the whole 24 hours. And the UN were doing, it was like Arts Week, so it was all over the world. We were all starting off whatever our thing for the UN was, and it was my idea, my creation, and all of a sudden that, when it was counted down to the minute we went live, it was one of those, what have I done? I've got to back out and I can't. Welcome. So I would say, yeah, that, and that kind of, I think as well, when you feel like literally you're flying by the seat of your pants, it just makes you feel more like, okay.
There's nothing, it's weird, it's almost two different thoughts. That fear of going live and then going live.
Yes.
So that fear of, Ade, we're going live in 5, 4, 3, and I'm like, oh my God, here we go. And then when you're there and flowing, you just go.
Yeah.
And that's when I refer back to that kind of 10,000 hours. I'm like, you've done this. Like, yes, it's not in your front room chair, but you've done it to a camera by yourself. Come on, dude, let's go. It's only talking about sport.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's talking about sport.
We give ourselves like these little chats.
Yeah,
no one else knows.
No one knows what's going on in there. I'd love people to open up your head and hear what is going on before a minute before going live. It's frightening.
Oh my God.
It's frightening. And it's weird because I've spoken to am I the only one that fears this? So it was really interesting speaking to you outside, but I've spoken to Adrian Durham, who I think is the GOAT for TalkSport. He's like, can't beat him. And I was like, dude, you're amazing. He's like, what? It's almost like he has an out-of-body experience when he goes on air. Because when he comes off, he's like, and I'm like, Adrian, dude,
come on, dude.
You are, if you're doing this, what are we going to do? So I feel like everyone goes for it. Just because everyone is so, especially in the way it works now with social media, everyone's so quick to jump on a mistake, or to critique. It's crazy. And like, we all make mistakes in the walk of life, but that you could say, mispronounce a name and they will go mental. And I'm like, really? I mean, it's not like the name was Chris Smith. You know, the name was quite hard.
Bring it bony, right, people?
A lot of them can't actually, my way of thinking is that, I'm fine to make mistakes. As long as the person understands that I'm trying my best and it's never intentional. Like, I'm always messing up names. So, from Carlos Sainz to, just the other day with, Mr. Lescott, I call him.
Lescott.
But he told me off. But the thing is that like, when people know that you're just trying to do your job and it's just a mind slip, and a lot of them are okay, and as long as you don't go off track from there, that I always find that it's really important just to keep the conversation flowing, and I think that's what I love about you guys, where I don't feel like I'm watching presenters, I feel like I'm watching my friends, and I feel like I've known you guys for a long time, even though obviously we've just met. But I think that's what people love about you guys. I feel that I'm watching my friends. I don't feel like I'm watching presenters. I feel that your styles, especially obviously with motorsport for you, it's like you've got so much energy, and you bring to life the actual excitement of the sport. And when I'm listening to you, or when I'm watching you just recently on TalkSport, I was just like, besides me being a Liverpool bias, allegiance,
these guys,
the fact that you can. It feels like you're in a bar or in your front room with your friends, and that's what you bring to it. So, I'm learning as we're speaking. So if I'm being more quiet than normal, it's because I'm sitting there learning from these guys.
I think with me and Rachael as well, like, we've had a lot to deal with. I'm black and I present her, Rachel's a female and I present her. I mean, that door, we had to kick that door down to get in. So I applaud Rachael because I work with females now and I hear and speak to them, and the stick they get for talking about sport, it's just ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. I was working with a lady, I hope she doesn't mind me mentioning her name, a lady called Alice. We done the Sky Sports transfer show. She made a mistake, one simple mistake, and it was, oh, get back to the kitchen, iron the clothes. It's nonsense. Sky had to remove her from it because it was actually just too much.
Wow.
Yeah,
I really struggle with it because coming up when I used to work at Sky Sports, I was producing Soccer AM YouTube channel, and at that time had Laura Woods, who was a presenter of me, with Adam Smith, we had Alex Scott, and of course Alex Scott now, Olympics, Football Focus.
Amazing.
Every time I'd see her trending Twitter, already I'm like, here we go. And it's really hard to, especially now trying to be professional, not to get involved in that. And of course, Alex is a tough girl. Like she has got her bases covered. But you look at the way social media is now, like no one's safe. And Alex is an example of that. And I think that also comes into something I wanted to talk about. It's like mental health. I think people don't realize how much in any profession, I don't think it's just limited to media, but of course our personal experiences. You can put so much of your energy into what you love. You kind of forget like how it can impact yourself, maybe others, loved ones, friends. With you, starting with you, Rachael, as far as how you try and maintain sanity or just well-being in this crazy world, because of course, not only do you have to do your job, you're presenting, you're trying to be present, but also, you have to respect yourself as a brand. Like, how do you keep yourself level throughout all of that process? Because, from the humble beginnings of CDUK, Top of the Pops, to what you're doing, in the motorsport world, it's a skill, really.
I don't think you do. I'll be absolutely honest. I don't think. I don't think you do at all. I think, well, for me personally, I think it's probably many different things. Number one, I think a lot of people in the industry, I don't think we're the most secure, and we're in an industry where you'll never ever get told you were amazing. You only get told whether or not, to be honest, if you get booked on the next day or the next gig, then you're doing all right. So you're never going to get that back. It's an industry where as a freelancer, you spend a lot of time on your own, grafting, looking for work. When you're doing it is quite an isolating industry actually. And then when you do the actual gigs, again, it's like you get your imposter syndrome, you get yourself down, it's highs, lows. So I'll be honest, for me, I don't think you do. I don't know, I don't think you do. And it's an industry where, because I don't know, without sounding naff, but it is who I am. So without it, then that self-doubt comes in even more. And it's something, you'll always be hustling like this for years and years and years. So, I don't know. I think if you have a good week mentally, then you're doing good, personally.
And I think that was interesting because you've come through the broadcasting game, so you've had a bit of a run-up into how this social media brutality is, whereas for yourself, Ade, you skyrocketed into this industry. Of course, we're in this social, digital era as it is now. And I'm guessing we all will pay attention to comments, feedback from friends, peers, and strangers, trying not to look too deep into it. But for yourself, Ade, the boxing world, a football game, how do you kind of keep yourself level in it? It can be very positive, but also very toxic as industry sometimes.
It's difficult, like Rachael says. I don't know if you can try and balance it. I'm lucky that I've got really good sort of friends and family who keep me grounded, but then there's a balance where I just shut off from it as well. And I try to leave the industry alone even if it's for a couple of days and just chill with them and just be normal, so to speak. But I think for me, the thing that has really helped me is my YouTube channel. Again, because that's where I go back to, where I get so much love. And I get a bit of stick, but I'm getting stick from people that I know that love me as well. So they'll critique me and I accept their criticism because they followed the journey for the last 4 or 5 years. But once I sit, and that's probably why it's almost my own little sort of mental repair. That's why I probably have to do a film every day, just to kind of get rid of the noise and just sit on the green chair, turn the camera on, and it's like, we're back again. Because it's difficult. I think I struggled mentally quite a lot, especially when I joined TalkSport. As I say at the start, you're asking people to tweet in, text in, call in. And the problem with TalkSport, and I think we've openly kind of told them to kind of stop it now, is you're seeing it come in. So you're seeing the texts and the tweets come in about you as you're asking. Wow. And it could be racist, it could be you're just crap, you're this, you're that. It's right in there, in your face. And that's difficult. I've seen some presenters just cover the screens and don't want to see it. But I'm like, no, let's go, let's let's have a go of it. So yeah, that's been the biggest mental F up ever. That TalkSport, because it's just
It's hard.
it's their demographic is sort of white males over 40, van drivers, and here comes this black guy talking a bit different, and it's like a complete switch for them. But I think the more of us, and I say us, myself, and Joel's just entered the building, the
Big
more
up Joel Bayer.
Big up Joel Bayer. The more they can see of us on the screens, I think the more they'll just accept. So you've almost like just got to keep on going. So I feel like I'm not just here kicking doors down for myself, but for everyone to come through. So that's almost every time I kind of battle with the mentor, it's like, but remember you're on this task, this Arnold Schwarzenegger 1980s action man commando task.
I mean, this is one of those things, like I've had such a fear of having like a public Instagram profile, and as we're kind of on this journey, I figured like, well, you know, to market yourself, also to help.
You'll get the blue Dixon.
Yeah, won't be bad, won't complain. But you learn about that process as you go along, and I think like for us, Ray, like as we've done this journey, like it's you just got to roll with the punches, right? It's one of those things where I think you just go in, well, hope to go in fearlessly, but also we look to others that have done this journey. But I want to round it up on a positive note, of course. We're by no means finished articles. We're all, in a way, I feel like every day is still a day one when we step into our workplaces. But what would we say is like the definition of success? What would be like the project that we sit there and go, we've done good for ourselves here? What is like, we're trying to reach it, that maybe it's a short-term goal or long-term goal that you want to, do as a presenter or broadcaster?
I think for me, and sometimes you've got to pat yourself on the back, right? I think so far we've ticked a few boxes that I didn't expect to tick.
Sure.
But for me, the two biggest sporting events in the world are the World Cup and the Olympics. And it's hosting those. So it's not being a co-presenter, it's being the main seat hosting the two biggest events. So I look at, and it's a crazy thing, but I look at Qatar next year, I look at the next Olympics in Paris, and I think, okay, go. Like, let's see. Because I never thought, and 5 years ago, I never thought Sky Sports, TalkSport, DAZN. I've done a bit in Africa for ESPN. That was what? Impossible. Like never. So now it's like, oh, well, no, let's go. I mean, if you're not going to do it, someone's going to sit in the seat. So why not you? So for me, I think the two biggest things, and then I'll retire, done. We can go back to Nigeria, big house, a cook, a cleaner. But for me, it's the World Cup and the Olympics in any way, shape or form hosting those.
It's a classic. We'll clip it up. We're going to reprocess this clip and say, here we go, it's done. Because I think, I mean, look at some of our friends in this industry that have done amazing things.
Yeah.
I've got into places that we're going, kudos, and like we celebrate the achievements and what happens. Rachael, for you?
I would say, by the way, it's quite funny. We talk about how this industry makes us insecure, and then we're like, boom, we're going to have these gigs.
Big dreams.
Yeah!
That's how crazy
So
we are.
bipolar.
It's crazy.
We are, like literally,
it's crazy,
completely crazy. For me, it would be to cover Formula One, and my plan is to do that either next year or the year after. I think that would be, but for the Formula One channel, that 100%. And again, that was never anything that I ever thought I could get, but I totally know I could. I can see where I could fit into that. So I'd say Formula One, and then after that, I mean, I'd love to do like IndyCar or NASCAR. I'd love to do some of the American racing, definitely, because I think there's a whole market there for Brits to go and cover. But yeah, I would say just kicking ass in motorsport.
Dre, let's throw it on you, buddy.
Well,
My work husband.
well, I mean, to be honest with you, like obviously as we discussed earlier, we've been behind the scenes for a lot of the time, so therefore we've kind of ticked a lot of these boxes already.
So it's weird. It's accidental. Isn't
Yeah,
it? Look at these lovely people we're sat with. It's like, what are we doing? What are we doing here?
We've been there already, and it's not to sound big and brass, because I'm a big proponent of people, following your dreams and making sure that you pursue them,
Absolutely.
And really graft. And people don't realise that it's not easy. They see you on Instagram when we're on a mega yacht or something like that. That's one of our unreasonable goals. But I think it's to have fun and to be happy, and I think that's where we are, and we're in a place where we're fortunate enough to be able to shine a light on people like yourselves who are going to be heavily influential to the next generation of people who can actually set up their own channels, or fearlessly go to be on Sky, or to actually
get more inclusivity in motorsports and boxing and football, and then also, especially after last year, there's not that fear element of oh, okay, we have to act like this because of such and such.
Yeah.
You know, I think now the glass ceiling has been taken away.
Yeah,
So therefore, I feel that I'm very grateful for you guys to be able to give us your time.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, that people are going to be able to see this and think, you know what, everything I'm planning on doing, I'm going to do it now, fearlessly.
Yeah.
I mean, you couldn't have, capped off the episode in a better way.
Shucks.
Such a romantic Dre. But, I hope, like, for you guys that are watching this here in Hard Rock, that you've heard some cool stories, maybe a little bit of inspiration, but just, feel good and, get to enjoy, the highs and lows of what this experience is. Rachael, Ade, Dre, thank you very much. Of course, Hard Rock, big up. This is Hard Rock Hangouts, and we appreciate you guys so much for hanging out with us.
Thanks for having us. Thank you. Enjoyed it. Remember I said I'm going to steal this idea though, yeah?
That's it. His new show, The Green Chair, was in
Let's just put a clamp on that.